Hey everybody, welcome to our Supporting Sensitive Children live chat. They're giving me all these buttons. I don't want those buttons. It says draw it, press play. I don't want that. I just want to say hi to you guys. There are so many new people that have signed up for our Supporting Sensitive Kids class. So welcome. Welcome if you don't know me, if this is your first time here. Welcome. If you are have been with me for a while, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I'm going to wait and get a few people to pop on. Hopefully you got your video 1 email today. There was a little bit of an email glitch. Hopefully you only got it once. You might have gotten it twice. Hopefully you didn't get it 3 times, but at least we get the glitch out of the way in the beginning. That's always a good sign. I feel like it's a good sign. So welcome if you are joining me live. I'm so excited to see you, to be here with you. Like I said, we had almost 1,000 people sign up for this free class. I don't think I've had that many people actually sign up for one of my free classes at one time like that. So thank you to everybody who shared. And if you did not, if you're like, what are you talking about? I'm just popping on. I posted the link inside the comments at the top, the heading. So if you guys that are watching, can you go ahead and just say hi and let me know that you can hear me and see me? Because there's like this draw it button at the top, and I don't know what that is, and I wish it would go away. And I'm going to see if I can just check and make sure. I'm kind of doing this one on my own today. Well, a little tiny bit unprepared, not too much. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Yay! Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for letting me know. So now that I know that you guys can hear me, please say hi. Let me know in the comments. Give me some love, give me some likes, but say hi. Let me know about your family. Tell me how many kids you have, how old they are. That always helps when, hi Angie. Angie is here. Angie's one of my certified parent educators. She is a fabulous resource in her own right. So, if you guys got questions and she's popping on to answer, I highly recommend her. Wonderful. Angie has a lovely warm energy besides her amazing knowledge. So Angie, welcome. I'm so happy to see you here. And for everybody else, if you have questions, go ahead and post them. I'll try to, I can see them popping up. This is amazing. Everything seems to be working, and that's so exciting. So like I said, welcome back if this is your first time here. If you watched the video today, let me know. Did you get it in your email, and did you get a chance to watch it before now? Because that way I know if you got to watch it and what we can talk about. I have some things that I want to talk about. Hi, Molly. Molly's got 3 kids. It looks like just one of them is a highly sensitive child. So welcome, Molly. So hello to all the sensitive children family, and hello to all of my highly sensitive parents out there. How many of you are highly sensitive parents raising highly sensitive children? Well, don't raise your hand because I can't see you, but raise your hand in the comments. Give me a high five or a thumbs up or a raised hand and let me know. And like I said, write in, let me know how old your kids are, because if I answer a question for you, it really always helps. Because here's the thing. When we talk about helping our kids, sensitive or not, it really helps to know how old they are so we can know what we can expect at that age. I was reading online recently about, they did a survey of parents, and they asked them at what age did they believe that their children had impulse control. And a majority of the parents, over half of the parents, thought that impulse control happened around age 1.5. And it just starts at around, it peaks out at like 3.5 maybe. But for our sensitive kids, it peaks out a little bit later. They have a little bit longer of a developmental curve. It doesn't mean that they're delayed. It just means that they need a lot of sensitive care. And if you watched today's video, which let me know if you did watch it, you will see that that sensitivity is not actually a deficit. I think so many of you guys have felt, because of teachers or other people, have felt like sensitivity was a deficit. Have you felt like that? Let me know if you have felt frustrated by how people saw your children. Lauren's saying that the commenting is working differently now and the audio isn't disrupted. Okay. Sorry, I thought that was something for me. See, I can't reach because I didn't charge my phone in time enough. It's charged, but I don't want it to run out. So it's kind of far away from me. So I'm going to try to see if I can see my video here and see your questions down here. But Molly's saying totally. So it sounds like she's totally felt like that. I know that it's really frustrating when we feel like other people don't understand our kids, and then we start to feel pressure to fix them and mold them and make them more like what everybody's expecting. And that's what it was like for me as a child. I realized that I was pushing down some of my biggest assets, my intuition, my empathy, because they were so overwhelming for me as a child, because I didn't yet know how to manage them, because I didn't have the right conditions in my environment. I didn't know how to use those tools. I didn't know how to manage them and then use them to my benefit. And I didn't realize that they were an asset. So I tried to push them down so that I could be what other adults wanted me to be, and I sucked at it. I was not very good at it. So I was always punished. I was just reading through a bunch of report cards and was looking at the comments of, needs to learn how to follow class rules and relate well to others, and all of these things that I wasn't good at, communication and relationships. But I realized what I needed, and I realized that my sensitivity was confusing to the adults around me. So if you have a sensitive child and you're not a highly sensitive person, you might be doubly confused. You might be like, oh, I don't understand this at all. They need to get it. I told them once, this and that. But if you are a highly sensitive person, you may get it. You may still want them to, just get it already. But you may understand them more. Doesn't mean it's necessarily any easier. You might just have made that jump already because you know where they're coming from. But I have to say, this is not about perfection. If you guys are new here, it's always about being conscious, not perfect for me, because there are a lot of times when I say in my head, I'm like, I can keep it together. I walk myself through it. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to breathe. She's acting this way, but I can stay together. I can wait to approach this before, or I can go in and help her get regulated before she gets to that meltdown point. But there are other times when I mess up and I'm not very good at it. And that's okay too, because I grow and I learn and I get to go back to my kid and say, that didn't turn out how I wanted. I don't think that you felt supported. I certainly didn't feel respected, and I want to figure out where we got messed up together. Let's have a do-over. And I come back in, when I use my empathy, my intuition, my knowing that she's a good person, everything doesn't mean that sensitivity goes away or that conflict goes away, but I feel so much more confident, and I get to move through it. I get to feel pain, I get to feel discomfort, but then I get to come out on the other side feeling good, instead of feeling all that and then still feeling frustrated at the end. So how many of you guys, try to work stuff out with your kids, conflict, and then on the other end of it, you still feel so drained, so frustrated, so at a loss for what to do next? Let me know. I'm going to try to go through your comments and see if I can. I don't think I can see on my video page for some reason. Let's see. If not, I'm going to have to reach over. Oh, no, I can see. Yay. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Okay. So Melissa's saying, I'm not highly sensitive and I lose it. I'm shaming her before I even realize it. Okay. We can work with that. Okay. Recognizing that is the first It's hard, but that's such a big step, Melissa. So thank you for mentioning that. Let me open up these comments. Why can't I open them? They're not showing them. Oh, because it's showing me the whole video. All right, guys. I'm going to have to do it this way. Hopefully I don't knock anything over, because speaking of sensitive things, my body awareness is not always so great, but I have to do it this way. So Angie has a 9-year-old highly sensitive kid. I have met Angie's highly sensitive kid, and he's lovely, as all your kids are, I'm sure, and really intense, I'm sure, because I have one of those. I have a lovely and amazing 13 and a half year old, and she's intense, but she's also amazing. Lauren is super excited for this. I'm super excited for this too, Lauren. So post your questions. Let me know about your kids. I think you already let me know about your kids. I'm not sure. Oh, no, it's Molly. Molly's got 3 kids. Her 7-year-old is highly sensitive. Let's see. I know, she's got 3. When you've got 3 kids and they're all little, that's a lot. And then when you have a highly sensitive one, that child sometimes needs a lot of care. If you guys watched video number 1, and if you didn't, go back and listen for when I talk about the orchid study and what they found about highly sensitive kids and why it's a gift. Because when we have the right conditions, we thrive. High sensitivity seems like it's like this drawback, it's a deficit, but we really thrive. Here's the other thing I wanted to say. If you filled out the highly sensitive checklist and you're like, ooh, some of these don't apply, but some of these do, what does that mean? Is my child highly sensitive? Do they just have sensory processing, challenges? I want to leave behind all the labels, because labels are just ways to categorize behaviors. My goal is to help us look past those labels and work with behaviors, work with getting our kids regulated, work with being influential by securing relationship, work with how do we help a kid build skills no matter where their sensitivity is coming from. Will you need, some kids will, yes, need occupational therapy. OT will be great for some kids. And then there's going to be other kids that maybe just have high anxiety and are really emotionally sensitive and have deep thoughts and think about, have all this existential angst at like 7. And maybe they don't have, tactile sensitivity. Maybe they don't also have sensory integration challenges, but they're highly sensitive emotionally or mentally. Gifted kids can often have physical sensitivities and emotional sensitivities and cognitive sensitivities, these mental sensitivities where they just overthink and they overanalyze and they can't shut their brain down. I'm speaking to all of it. The idea of the checklist is so that you can figure out, where does my child have their superpower? The reason I call it a superpower is because if we nurture it, if we recognize that, okay, this kid's really anxious, or this child needs lots of heavy work, heavy play, movement, again, that OT piece that comes in, then they can then start to build the skills that we don't see, that we get really frustrated because we keep telling, we keep punishing, or we keep giving consequences and nothing's changing. But we're not working with the brain. So high sensitivity, regardless of whether it is a highly reactive, genetically neurological difference, or whether it is a developmental immaturity, it requires us to look at behavior differently. And that's what our goal is. So when you've filled out that checklist, it's to figure out, where does my child have challenges, but also what are they really good at? So if you have a kid that overthinks, they probably have some really good hyperfocus as well. So that's a really great skill when you have to get stuff done. Maybe it's a drawback when you're trying to transition. But if we know what we're working with, then we're able to stop getting so frustrated by behaviors that we can't change. And we get to help our kids just figure out how to work on skills. How do we build self-regulation in a kid that's highly reactive to sensory touch, for example? Well, you don't know to look for that if you don't know that your child is running around and bumping into things all the time, that they're sensory seeking, or maybe they're avoidant. Maybe they don't like any tactile touch. So the idea of the highly sensitive checklist is to figure out what do I want to work on? The other thing is that you can't work on everything at once, okay? You might have filled out, if you have a kid like me, you might have filled out so many of those boxes you don't even know what to do. And you feel like, I need some water, excuse me guys. And you feel like, what do I do? That's okay too. You just say, what's causing us the most disruption? What time of the day is it? Is it after school? Is it bedtime? How old is my kid? What is their level of skill right now? We have to look at all these things. We can't do it all at once, but that's the timeline. So when I talked about the skills, support, stress in the first video, that's how we break it down. We want to look at behavior and we want to go, what is my child missing here? How can I help? Is this a support challenge? Do we need to secure our relationship? Are they resisting because they don't feel connected? And sometimes anxious kids, sensitive kids, they may withdraw. They may act out. There's two ways that our kids act out when they're stressed. They withdraw and they may go inward and they may clam up and not tell you anything. How many people have a kid that just shuts down and they don't share their emotions with you and you can't get anything out of them? Let me know if you have one of those kinds of kids. And some kids can't keep a lid on it. You have to recognize, where does my kid express their stress? How do they express it? And then what's stressing them out? So the idea of the support, stress, and skills is to give you a framework so that you don't just look at behavior and go, I gotta stop it. You have to look at, where are they struggling? Do I need to make a stronger connection because they'll feel calm when I do that? Or is it that they're really stressed out and we need to find some kind of sensory tool that's going to calm them? We can't work on behavior until we feel regulated. Or is this really a challenge that they're resisting because it's tough? They're working on a skill like focus or attention. And maybe we need another kind of sensory tool or a break that we build in. And again, that'll be in lesson 3. We'll talk about some skills in our chat when we get there. But right now, I just want to break down the support, stress, skills. That's the purpose of it, so that we can identify how we can help kids build their skills, navigate their sensitivities, manage their stress, which often they live right at the top of their tolerance level. All right, let me get back to the comments because I want to see. We have a 3.5-year-old total outgoing extrovert. You know, and we can have highly sensitive extroverts too. Just so you guys don't think they're always introverts. Angie says she has felt that judgment that we talked about before when our kids, their behaviors, especially if they're maybe younger but they are tall or they look older, and then people really have it out of their mind. They expect so much more. And that can be, hello Galit. Galit is here. She's in my my Parent Educator certification program. Lauren also has an easygoing 9-year-old. Melissa says, I'm not highly sensitive and I lose it. We were talking about that. Let's come back to that too. What to do if you're not highly sensitive. Molly has for sure felt that judgment, and Lauren too, I think. Kim says, I constantly feel drained because it's never ending. I am sensitive, but my 9-year-old is having issues constantly and I can't accommodate and get through, but when does the learning kick in? This is a really good question. So it's not so much when does the learning kick in, but what are you looking for? So Kim, when you think about, like, I want the learning to kick in, what does that look like at home? Does that mean mornings are easy? Does that mean she eats breakfast that you serve? Does that mean that homework gets done on time? Does that mean that you have better communication? Does that mean that that her ability to self-regulate is maybe on par with her age? Because a lot of the time sensitive kids may be older, their chronological age may be here, but their emotional age is all the way down here. But maybe that's just their self-regulation, but then their emotional awareness and their ability to empathize is way up here. So there's all of this mismatch between how old we think they are and what we think they should be able to do. So here's the thing. Just know that your kid is able to do and should be able to do exactly what they're doing right now. Because growth is not this race to get here by some certain point. It's where am I and what do I need to learn? When I go in, if I decide to take tennis lessons, I don't go in and the coach says, all right, let's, start at the end. I'm going to start. So I don't know anything about tennis, so that was a dumb analogy to pick. But I don't go in and start at the top, right? And he doesn't get upset with me when I keep missing the balls and he's just, hitting them at me and I'm running all over like a chicken without my head and I don't know what I'm doing. The coach doesn't yell at me, right? He looks and goes, okay, let's see. That was great to know where your skill level is. Now let's start at the beginning. So we have to start at the beginning. Sometimes if you don't know where you are, if you're in such chaos, we have to take it really small. And I know you want to, not you, just you, Kim, but everybody, I know we want things to work faster and to fix faster, but we're gonna take it slow, like really slow, because this is not just a race to get kids to have better skills. Childhood, normal development, self-regulation, executive function skills, that continues through early adulthood. So even with regular children, typically developing, not highly sensitive, kids who let everything roll off their back, at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they make mistakes. And then in the teenage years, the brain goes under a complete reconstruction. And what matters is, of course, what our history has been like. What are the patterns that we're developing? Becky says, I have an 11-year-old who's highly sensitive and I'm not. So we clash a lot. He has low self-esteem because he feels like he's different. He just started secondary school and he's finding it very hard. Anxiety levels are up. He ticks nearly every box on your list. He's amazing in many, many ways. Okay, this is amazing. Waving to my daughter, she's leaving, waving out the back. Becky, that's amazing that you recognize how amazing he is, even though he's having difficulties, even though he's so sensitive and maybe you don't understand it. So here's what I want to know from you, Becky, and you can post it in the comments if you're comfortable, or just write it down for yourself. When you guys clash, what does that look like? Is it emotionally? Is it when you try to have conversations about, details? I know with my daughter, when we try to have conversations about, let's say, like something that needs to get done or something I want to make sure that she does have with her, like her lunch or her school bag, sometimes just my tone will set her off. And I'm highly sensitive, but we can still clash because it's like, wow. But I also remember clashing with my own mom and that being really harsh because me being, 12 and thinking, and I remember being in this completely different perspective and wondering, why doesn't she just get it? And now sometimes I look at my own when she was 11, 12, 13-year-old and I go, why doesn't she just get it? But I know what it's like. I know that her perspective is limited and it's different and it comes from her very small experience of only 13 years on this earth. And I've got, over 40, and I just have a different perspective. And it's not good or bad. But when you clash, what does that look like for you? Communication clashes? Is it that you just don't understand why he gets overreactive? These are the things that I said I want you guys to set goals in the highly sensitive checklist. The goals that I want you to set revolve around looking at those sensitivities and the things that are most challenging right now. Just pick 2 or 3 things. If there's like 7 things on your list that you're battling, I don't want you to go to war. I want you to take one thing at a time. And we're going to come back together, but we're going to do it from the inside out. We're going to start slow. We're going to start with our stuff, and then we're going to unravel it so that we can be there for our children. But so just pick 2 things. I said 2 or 3, just 2. 2 things where the sensitivity makes you feel drained, where you guys clash, whatever that may look like for you. And that's where you want to start. So when we go into tomorrow's video, I want you to think about those 2 things. I don't want you to think about every different challenge, because every day when you're in a place of chaos, like Kim was saying, it sounded like she was really drained by behaviors every day. when you're in that place and you try to go in and change things or implement new strategies, you'll be too drained, and then you'll get frustrated, and then you'll go right back to where you were, perhaps using consequences, perhaps just using force so that you can get through the day and get through whatever the routine or whatever the emotional challenge is in that moment. I don't want you to just get through. I want you guys to feel life, because life, there's conflict, and life, there's anger, and life, there is stuff that we don't want to do, and life is challenging for children who are new at not, having to do things, and they come into this world, and we're like, here, do this, and go there, and sit there, and now you go to the bathroom, and now you have to sleep, and here's when we eat, and we tell them everything, and as they grow, we need to give them a little bit of room to breathe. And we need to make sure that the conditions, the environment that we're building at home is one where we can thrive and they can thrive. And that doesn't mean that anybody has to necessarily change. It means that we just have to become really aware of what's going on. Angie says her son will do both when, I'm shaking everything. Her son will do both when he gets stressed. It just depends. He'll withdraw or have huge outbursts. So, and my daughter will also tend to do both as well. But again, sometimes these are strategies that our children need to regroup. But we want to make sure that that's what they're doing, that they're feeling like they can take space, and that they're not withdrawing because they feel pressure, force, or scared because of our interaction that just went on. Becky says, sometimes my son does both too, withdraws and sometimes explodes. Molly says, my 7-year-old is quite tall and well-spoken and always has been. I feel he's been extra judged for certain behaviors. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, right? Because of certain behaviors, because of his age, because of how... I'm totally messing with this. Because people expect more. Kim saying all of those things. Jessimae, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name's wrong, please let me know if I do. She's saying hello. She has a 7 and 5-year-old and a 2-year-old here. So you and Molly, I think, have, or was it Becky? I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm mixing up your names now. Your families, but a few of you guys have the 3 kids and the sensitive one. So both the older 2 are sensitive in their own ways, and your youngest... It's not letting me open your comments. We've had that problem before, didn't we? Becky says, at the moment, most things I say warrants him snapping back. He likes to be in control and argues. Becky, all right, let's talk about that. I really want to open your comment, because let's see if I can open it over here, and then I'll stop shaking everything. I want to open that comment because I want to talk about that. He wants to control everything. This is something that highly sensitive kids, you might find with them. They want to be in charge, or that when you say, 1, they say 2. When you say black, they say white. When you say, up, they say down. Whatever it is, they want to be the ones that have this last say or make the decision. Now, again, any kid at times wants to have that autonomy. They want to make those decisions, but when you have a sensitive kid, for whatever reason, wherever their sensitivity comes from, do you know where that control that we perceive as control is coming from? Do any of you guys know? Let me know, because I don't want to give you ideas that you might already know. But it's coming from a place, and this is one of the things that we do in our classes, and that we'll do in this free series. And that is that we want to look underneath that behavior. Where is that desire to control come from? It comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of dysregulation. Sesame. There we go. Video is stalled. I wonder if it's still stalled. But I was close. I'm glad I was close. Jessamy. I'm going to try to remember that. Is it still stalled, you guys? Can you hear me? I hope I'm not stalled. Am I stalled? Well, I'll keep talking. It doesn't say that sometimes it comes up and lets me know if the video is stalled. I don't know. Who's watching? Let me know if it's still going. What's our time? 4:34. Oh, I'm back. Okay, good. All right, so how did 30 minutes go by already? That's so fast. All right, if you have a question about the video today that you watched or about that relates to your children, post in the questions now, and I will. I know Becky saying I know the control's gotten worse because of the fear of moving to secondary school and leaving behind all he knew. Yeah. So here's the other great thing about what that sounds like. It sounds like that fear is temporary, and that it's really overwhelming right now. But this is a temporary stress that he's going to be able to move through. And it may be uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's the thing. Sometimes we think, oh, we have to stop it. We have to make them comfortable. We have to make all the conflicts go away. No. We don't need to make things comfortable for our kids. They don't build resilience if we clear out all the obstacles and we try to, yes, we want to accommodate. I said in the video today, I do a lot of accommodating for my daughter. If we're going to go out in a noisy environment and I know she's really auditory sensitive, I'm going to give her headphones. I'm going to let her wear headphones through the store so that she doesn't get dysregulated. I also know that fluorescent lights really bother her, and smells, really strong smells do. So I know that I'm going to, if we have to go by the perfume counter, I'm going to make sure that we go outside after so she can have some fresh air, because otherwise she's going to get, now she's old enough to know what that is, but when she was 3 and 4, if I walked through a mall, she would become highly dysregulated. She didn't know what that was. Now I know. So I will accommodate in that I can prepare her. I have a stress relief kit in our car. There's things that I do, and I talk about that in the course, about everything that's in our stress relief kit, or in the full series, not in our free series, but we touch on it. But I talk about all the things that we do to help accommodate and prepare ourselves so that we don't get overwhelmed when we don't have to. But that doesn't mean that we clear out the obstacles and we move heaven and earth just to make things comfortable for our kids. It means that we're aware of their sensitivities and we use their sensitivities to help them grow. We say, okay, you know what? I know that they are, they have really sensitive to auditory noises, to loud noises, to, there's so many different ways that my daughter's sensitive to sounds. But I also know that there's ways for her to block that out. So instead of still getting upset at the behavior, I help her manage that sensitivity. This is what I didn't know as a kid. I didn't know that I was highly sensitive. I didn't know that I was pushing down my emotions. I didn't know that there were ways to manage the overwhelm that I was feeling, because I have sensory processing challenges and highly sensitive, emotional, and all of that. So I have like the whole gamut of it, which is why I kind of understand from all ends. And nobody understood me. My mom was not, she's emotionally sensitive, but she did not understand why I didn't want to wear pants and why I was like this itches and scratchy clothes and all of that. She didn't know any of that. She did not understand, but she wanted to, but she didn't experience it. And no one was really talking about it. So it wasn't something that she had the tools to give me. So that's really what I want to help you guys do here, is figure out where are the real challenges. Not, they always want to have their way, or they explode too much. We want to narrow it down. We can talk about, okay, the big behaviors that we see. But then we want to go in and say, what does this child need? Do they need more relationship support? Do they need ways to figure out how to manage that stress? Do they need to feel a little discomfort while they practice skills? And that's where we get messed up, because we're like, oh, we just said it, do it. Here's XYZ equals, or 1 + 2 = 3. Why don't you get it? Why can't you do it? But the ability to display mature behavior is not that simple. It's not a straight line. Behavior is not like linear. It is up and down, back and forth. Kids regress. There's lots of different periods of development that matter. And so we can't push skills that kids aren't ready for. So that's why looking at this checklist, figure out the 2 areas before our video tomorrow, before our live chat tomorrow. Figure out those 2 things that you really are struggling with and what you want your home to look like. When you say, I want to help my child here in with this particular sensitivity, and I want to help this particular behavior diminish, this unwanted behavior, what does that mean? What will your house look like if you accomplish that? Because sometimes we're just looking at behavior. We're like, you change, you fix it. Come on, I told you, here's a stress ball. Why are you still angry? Not that easy. I wish it were that easy. It's not, but that's why we're here. Because it's not, I can't just say, here's a tool, like my cards here. You guys, some of you guys have my cards. These are a great tool for sensitive kids because it helps you, when they get really reactive because of our language, which can be sometimes, direct. We say something really direct and they're set off by so much it's unintentional. We don't do it on purpose, but there's maybe guilt in there. There's a little bit of blame, or we're like, why can't you do that? You just, knew something. And our sensitive kids, like, it shuts them down or it angers them to the point where they explode. So the cards are really good, but you can't use the tool. You can't use these cards until you're really clear about what you're struggling with, because then you'll just use them and then they'll stop working because you never got to the root of the actual challenge. Does that make sense for you guys? Tell me if that makes sense. All right, let me look up in here again. Make sure before we jump off. Gisela, hello. I might be saying your name wrong. I apologize. I said that to Jessamy, who hopefully I'm getting it right now. So I'm sorry if I'm messing up your names, but hello. She has an 8, 13, and 15-year-old girls. As of right now, dealing with a 13-year-old coming into the teenagers. I've got one too. She's 13 and a half. And it's really amazing seeing her, this maturity suddenly like flash out from behind what used to be just this childlike quality. And now I have sort of this mature young woman, which you already have a 15-year-old, so you've watched it once, but this is my first time, and it is, it's new, it's different. Melissa's saying, I give lots of descriptive details when I direct her, thinking it'll help, but it shuts her down. Should I try fewer details? Ooh, good question. So here's where I want to say, these are not like yes or no answers, because every kid's different. But your answer is in your question. So I give lots of descriptive details when I direct her, thinking it'll help, but it shuts her down. So my daughter, when I talk too much or when I give her, it's so funny. Here's an example when she was like 7. She was getting ready for school, and she used to use a checklist, a whiteboard in the morning so that she could stay focused. This was one of our tools that we used to help her stay on track and on task. And she one day was following this in the morning, and it was right before her birthday party. And I started asking her details about her birthday party that I needed to know, like what color the balloons were. I don't even remember what they were, but details. And I saw her immediately shift, and her body stiffened. And I recognized, it was like one of those moments where you're like, oh, I see it happening. Okay, she's not ready. She can't do this. And I was like, is this too much for you right now? You can't answer these questions right now. You're trying to focus. She's like, yes, I'm trying to get ready. And she didn't even need to say anything else. But I kind of walked myself through it because it was just one of those aha moments for me as a mom to go, no more questions right now. No more details. Sometimes, and details are the same. So whether you have to give a lot of instructions, really slow. Kids process much more slowly than adults. When it's coming into our brain, we have a lot of experience. Our brains are wired up, and they've been securing connections for a while. And so it's like an information superhighway. It's a superhighway, but they sort of have like country roads right now. Their brains are like, we think that because they know this is blue and that is 1, that everything else should, when we tell them something, they should just get it. It doesn't work that way. For their brain to take in the information, block out the sensory information, and then process to be able to have their brains tell their limbs to, pick up a pencil or tie their shoe or grab their backpack or whatever it is. slower. And if they shut down, that means too much information coming in. But here's the thing, you can talk to your kids and figure it out. But right now, before you do that, write down some more of these, Melissa. Talk about, all right, when she shuts down when I give her all these details. Think about the other times that she's shutting down or that you're clashing, and write down what's happening. Okay, you guys, so when your kids, when you're having these clashes and the conflicts that are really getting in your way, I want you to jot it down so that you can track what's really getting in your way. It's not just, because here's the thing, if you're overwhelmed by some of these behaviors that you're missing the root cause, you can then see every other little behavior as a problem, as a challenge that your kid needs to fix instead of problems that we can solve together. And I want you to start to see these sensitivities and these challenges and this dysregulation and this negative behavior that is dysregulation as problems that your kids can solve with practice, with time. It may not be overnight. That's just childhood, but it can absolutely happen. So think about what you want your family to look like when you start solving some of these problems. What are the problems that you're having, and what will your family look like when they are solved? But tracking them, just picking them out. Jessime says, or Jessime, see, I'm gonna get it right. Loud noises is a huge issue for us. We carry around headphones a lot. Yes, it's so funny. You know what I had today, just before we started, or all day, they're doing work on my street outside. I live in I thought it was a little town until I visited a really little town. I was like, wow, I live in kind of a big town. And they're doing street work, and it's so loud, and it was so loud, like my entire house was shaking and banging because they're like digging up the street. And all day I was like, I'm going to be so anxious by the time 4 o'clock rolls around because I've been shaking all day like this. I'm probably shaking the phone right now doing that. Molly says, can a highly sensitive child have physical symptoms? My son is prone to migraine headaches with no obvious medical cause, and the pediatrician is stumped. For some reason, I can't open the rest of your messages, you guys, but so here's where there's lots of different things that might help you. Have you talked to an occupational therapist? Because when the brain is not able to filter out the signals and filter the signals the right way, all the sensory information that's coming in, there's lots of different things that can absolutely cause physical symptoms. So I don't have the ability to say yes, that is what's happening, but I can say that yes, it can absolutely cause physical symptoms. Also, just anxiety can cause those kinds of physical symptoms. But I'd look into food allergies too. Highly sensitive kids can often be highly sensitive. Their whole systems are highly sensitive. So things like red food dye or preservatives can cause migraines and just food things that are, it doesn't even have to be like chemicals in foods, it can be, sensitivity to tomatoes or something. So definitely there can be physical symptoms, but finding out what they are is really a lot of trial and error, I think, and visiting a lot of different kinds of doctors that are really informed about that kind of stuff. A typical pediatrician may not have, enough of an idea because they're just focused maybe on the general medicine side. But I would definitely talk to an OT for something like that too. Tanya is saying, I think it's Tanya again. Names sometimes when they have different spellings. Of course, I named my daughter with a funny spelling and nobody ever says it right either. She says, good idea. Hello from Detroit. Hello, Detroit. I'm glad you got a good idea. I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but I'm glad that you got a good one. My 5-year-old sometimes shuts down his auditory input. He literally stopped listening. Yes. Oh, here's a really amazing, I learned this little fact at a conference from Tina Payne Bryson. But when kids are stressed, when we're, sort of talking to them and then all of a sudden it feels like they stop listening, it's because the middle ear, which captures the human voice, actually shuts down under stress. How about that? So they aren't actually hearing you. Even just a typical kid, that can happen too. So a kid that's really sensitive is then definitely maybe going to have that sooner because they may get overwhelmed much more quickly. Here's somebody saying they're Jessica's saying, my sister is sensitive to foods and part of her symptoms is being an emotional wreck if she eats gluten. Yes, it's so true. Oh my gosh, gluten and mood. I'm also sensitive. Well, wheat. I don't know if it's gluten in general. I know it's definitely wheat for me. I had physical symptoms, but when I stopped wheat, when I accidentally was off it for a week, which is how I found out that I even was sensitive to it after years of stomach aches, my mood, my whole everything cleared. I felt lighter. I felt it was amazing and crazy how different I felt. So, you know, there's lots of stuff that can definitely overwhelm our systems. About tracking their dysregulation. Yes, absolutely. You want to start because, again, we can get so overwhelmed, you guys. And my goal here is to reduce the overwhelm. We can't answer every question. We can't fix, there's not problems that we need. We don't need to fix our children. There's problems that we need to solve, but we don't need to fix our children. We need to start understanding how to work with their sensitivity. So today's video was really just to outline the model, the support, stress, and skills model, to get you to set some goals, to figure out what you want to change. And then in tomorrow's video, we'll talk about what the number one stress relieving tool for sensitive kids, really I think for any kid, but definitely for sensitive kids is. And then we'll come back here and we'll talk about what you guys have been tracking. Now, a day isn't a lot of time, but I bet you'll be able to come up with a couple of things by tomorrow at 4. So I would love for you to meet me back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Again, if you have not signed up for the free series and you just found us on Facebook Live just by accident, I posted the opt-in where you can access it right in the video title, so you can grab it there. Until next time, you guys, until tomorrow, I'll be back here tomorrow with you, same time, to chat about the next video. Let me know what you think. Keep the conversation going. Keep posting in the comments what you think about or what comes up for you, because we can come back and we can keep talking even though we're not here live. We can keep the conversation going in the chat. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to see you again. Again, this was just a big surprise to have so many new people join for this class. So I can't wait to hear, those of you guys who are watching on the recording, I can't wait to hear what you thought and what you want to work on. Let me know. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Becky. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk soon.